Hey guys, this is Malika from Malika Semper Astrology, and let's wrap up. So, this is going to be your astrology for the rest of December going into January 3rd. So, first of all, this week comes in starting Sunday, December 28th. We are building towards a full moon weekend the next weekend. So we can certainly feel this in this particular week because we tend to feel the full moons, especially the full moons, about a week before they actually happen. So just know that this is going to be sort of a more sensitive week where emotions are just heightened. This full moon coming in towards the end of the week is also in Cancer. So here we have a water sign, and emotions just become more pronounced, right, in the sign of Cancer. But let's start out. We'll wrap up the rest of December. So looking at Sunday, December 28th, we have the moon in Aries, and she is squaring Jupiter over in Cancer. Now, this is happening at right around 2 p.m. Pacific time. And so today, Sunday, is going to be a day where, once again, emotions are heightened. This is, Jupiter coming from Cancer. Whatever Jupiter plays with, he just expands it and he makes it feel larger than life. And what is he playing with? The moon, which represents our home life, our emotions, our relationships with the feminine. So, what else could feel really expansive today is our friendships with our girlfriends, our really like personal social circles. So, our inner circle more so, relationship with mother, the way that you show up and mother things in your own life, whether it's your children, whether it's your projects, whether it's your friends, whatever it may be. All of that stuff feels extra big today on Sunday, December 28th. Okay. So there is a sensitivity in the air because it's Jupiter. He tends to be this really sort of happy-go-lucky guy. And they can be very good feelings coming in, good relationships coming up to the surface, but we can also feel a little bit of overwhelm on Sunday, December 28th, simply because Jupiter overwhelms. And in a square, he wants to overdo it, overcommit, overpromise. And so just being mindful of that on Sunday, December 28th, that we can certainly it's like this feeling of like oversharing. We've overshared, and then the next day we're regretting it because there is a big generous feel to this day. But when this transit is over tomorrow, there could be this regret that comes in for saying you were going to be somewhere when the time comes you don't really want to go, right? It's sort of that energy. We're ready to say, yes, I'll do that. I'll show up. I'll go with you. And then when the time comes, we're like, shoot, why did I say that? Okay, Sunday, December 28th. Let's move into Monday, December 29th. So we have a couple things going on here today. Today is there's peace in the heavens, so it makes it a little bit easier for us down here on Earth because the sun is in Capricorn, trining the moon over in Taurus. So the sun being the masculine, the moon being the feminine. Mom and dad, right, in the sky, sun and the moon, they're getting along. They're in earth signs. It's a Capricorn and Taurus sky. And when the sun and the moon get along, things flow easier for us down here on earth. So it is this feeling of there's an ease to today, Monday, December 29th, and we can sort of move easier through our rhythms, through our to-do list. And it's all under earth, so there will be a to-do list. There is this feeling of like, what do I need to get done today? How do I go about getting this done today? And we won't be met with too many blockages around this day. However, here are a couple things coming in to take note of today. That moon in Taurus is receiving a square from Pluto early this morning. So we wake up with this at 8:24 a.m. The moon in Taurus receives a square from Pluto over in Aquarius. Even though things are in the flow, because mom and dad are getting along in the heavens, there is a little bit of pokiness when it comes to emotional content. We can feel things extra. There's like an extreme when it comes to emotions today. Pluto brings in extremes. What's he playing with? The moon. So extreme of what? Emotions, right? This could show up in a couple different ways. You might feel like today there are some power plays that you sort of have to dance around or dance with. Control issues can come to the surface today. Relationship with women or the feminine or family things can come up today. And because it's Pluto, it's usually something that wants to be healed, but the poke is there, right? Pluto, think Scorpio, think the stinger of that scorpion tail, right? So something feels a little bit stingy that wants to be brought up to the surface. Pluto walks around with a big old shovel and he digs and digs and digs until those hidden things come up to the surface. So there could be a little bit of emotional work today, emotional intensity coming in with us today. And then this evening, Mercury, which is at the tail end of Sagittarius right now, is going to be receiving a square from Saturn over in Pisces. This is late tonight, 11:15 p.m. Pacific. But we will feel Mercury squaring Saturn for the rest of the week. That's why we want to pay attention to it. So we're going to feel it the most on Monday, December 29th, and we'll feel that for the rest of the week. And the way that that can show up is there can be some communication hiccups, right? This is a full moon weekend. And so it's a full moon week, and there are tricky communications this week that we just have to be more aware of. So when Mercury in Sagittarius, which just wants to really blur everything out, it's on the mind and out it comes, and oops, we can't take that back, right? But when it receives a square from Saturn over in Pisces, Saturn can mute our voice, can mute our expression, Saturn brings in delays and blockages when he's squaring something. So delays and blockages in what? Mercury, communication. This is a feeling of I can't quite show up and say what I want to say for fear of, I don't know, you're going to piss somebody off or they're not going to understand it or it's too intense for them. So we sort of become muted a bit and there can be some miscommunications. Or what else can come in with this week is we think we are not as smart as everyone else. We think we are not as intellectual. So that it could have this feeling of like, you're sitting in a classroom and you're taking a test and you feel like you're the only one flunking it, or everyone else is raising their hand but you, or everyone gets it but you don't. You're the confused one. So we can be hard on ourselves intellectually this week as well. So just watch for that. Then we move into Tuesday, December 30th, and this is a lighter day. That moon in Taurus is doing a little happy sextile dance with Jupiter over in Cancer. This happens at 3:27 p.m. Pacific, and here we have happy-go-lucky Jupiter supporting the moon. So Tuesday, December 30th can feel like a relief a bit. This is a generosity. There's feelings of generosity. There's feelings of wanting to get together with your people, having a good time, laughing with your people, that sort of an essence. We just feel very gregarious and happy-go-lucky, excited today. And any sort of feelings that can come up under this moon in Taurus is held really sweetly by Jupiter over in Cancer. So there is an opening of the heart. There's a sharing of the heart on Tuesday, December 30th, which feels really good. Anytime Taurus and Cancer get together, there's just this very nurturing, nourishing vibe in the heavens. And we just want to cuddle and we want to be around the people we love and we want to be around, those personal relationships, people that really get us. So that is really what Tuesday, December 30th is built for. Then we move into Wednesday, December 31st, and Happy New Year's Eve. It is the last day of 2025. Now, we have a happy sky today, but there is a requirement for depth and soul connection. So the moon, which has now shifted into Gemini, is receiving a trine from Pluto. Pluto, when he's happy, a trine is a supportive aspect. He's trining the emotions, right? And everything personal to us, which is represented by the moon. When Pluto's happy like this, it feels really good because now we have meaningful connection. So New Year's Eve, December 31st, 2025, is built for meaningful connection. Moon trine Pluto. The moon is in Gemini, Pluto's in Aquarius. We're under an air trine. So we want to be social today. It's a really good sky to be social under. This happens early in the, not too early in the morning, 9:34 a.m. Pacific. And we're going to be feeling this energy all throughout the day. And so while we are perhaps gathering, getting together with people, ringing in the new year, closing out the old year, 2025, we also want to have those meaningful conversations, those meaningful hangouts, those meaningful get-togethers, okay? Because Pluto does not do anything surfacey. Pluto does not do anything superficial at all. So we have a hard time making small talk today. We gravitate more towards those people that we really feel like a heart or a soul. Pluto's very soulful, soul connection with. And that's sort of where we want to stay. It can feel like a very rich, nourishing, healing sort of energy today. Okay. We're quite chatty too, because that moon is in Gemini. And Pluto comes in and supports that moon and says, sure, let's go have a conversation, but also let's go deep. Like, tell me what you've been through this year. I'll tell you what I've been through this year. Tell me what the healing potential is of that. Tell me what you've learned from those deep things that we have taken on as human beings in 2025. It's a rich, deep day, New Year's Eve. Then we wake up hopefully refreshed, some of us not so refreshed, on New Year's Day, January 1st, 2026. And here we have a tricky day of communication. Okay, this is where it starts. Well, it started earlier in the week, but it's just enhancing now. So Thursday, January 1st, early in the morning, 5:33 a.m. Pacific, we have Mercury squaring Neptune. That is Mercury's over in Sagittarius, right? It's squaring Neptune over in Pisces. This is a mutable square. It's very wishy-washy. Early in the morning, communications can be quite confusing. Neptune's squaring the way we speak and the way we think. It could be like we're talking about fantasies, we're talking about make-believe, we're talking about things that aren't actuality. We could be deceived by words. We can have the wool pulled over our own eyes. Things just don't quite make sense when Mercury is squaring Neptune. And that's a sky we wake up under on January 1st. And so we have to work a little bit harder to discern reality from unreality, non-reality. We have to work a little bit harder to get to the truth. There could be a lot of misunderstandings. I told you to meet me at 9. Oh my gosh, I thought you said 10 a.m., right? Things of that nature, like to do the tangible, show up on time, pay this bill today, be crystal clear in your communications. It just is not happening today. However, we have a little bit of help coming in at 1:11 p.m. today when that planet of Mercury moves into Capricorn. Now we have some clarity coming in. When Mercury moves into Capricorn, our planet of communication, we suddenly get very clear. We get very crisp, clear, and to the point, which is very helpful because of the miscommunications that happened earlier, in the day. Mercury in Capricorn. This is where you say it how it is. This is where there's not a lot of like fluff or colorful, colorful descriptions and details. You just are very clear. You get to the point. There can be immense amount of focus, which can be really helpful to some people. And Mercury is going to stay in Capricorn for all of January. So this will feel really good, right? And we're going to feel this really strongly, Mercury moving into Capricorn at the beginning of this transit. So we're going to feel this into next week as well. Okay. Mercury moving into Capricorn is we have this linear way of thinking. We can be very methodical. We can pay attention to the details much easier. We do show up on time. We do pay the bill on time, things of that nature, which will help those tricky communications happening throughout the week. Like if you have to have an important conversation, have it today after 1:11 p.m. Pacific. Okay, that Capricorn energy is going to help ground you, stabilize you, and just make your communications solid and bring a lot of clarity. Now, the next day, Friday, January 2nd, we have that moon in Cancer opposite Mercury, right? That Mercury in Capricorn. We're going to wake up under the sky at 6:58 a.m. Pacific. And here we have, it can go a couple different ways with an opposition. The moon, right? Everything personal to us, our emotions and our feelings is being opposed by the intellect and the planet of communication. And so the way that this can show up is either we are overly emotional. We take everything personally. We get our feelings really hurt today. We have to be careful. It's almost like this feeling of having to tiptoe around people, having to walk on eggshells a bit for the fear of hurting feelings, for the fear of, expressing yourself and not having it being met the right way as the way that you intended, perhaps. Now, the other thing that can come in here when the moon is opposite Mercury is the head and the heart are on opposite pages, right? The moon being the heart, Mercury being the head. And so we can't make a decision to save our life today. It's, the heart telling you one thing and the mind telling you something completely different. So we have a harder time merging the two, making decisions here. The other thing that can come in under this particular sky on Friday, January 2nd, is that we can't quite find our empathy when we speak or our compassion when we speak because the head and the heart are separated. And so, one extreme is we're completely emotional and we can't separate logic from emotion. And the other extreme is that we can't touch the heart and we're only speaking with logic and practicality. And we're lacking that empathy and compassion, right? So, tricky communication there. Now, Saturday, January 3rd, we have a beautiful full moon. So, we've been building towards this full moon all week. We're feeling that heightened sensitivity and emotions of that full moon coming in. So, she's finally here, Saturday, January 3rd. She lands at 13 degrees of Cancer, and she will reach her peak at 2:03 a.m. Pacific time. Now, when we have a full moon in Cancer, the full moon loves being in Cancer. The moon loves being in Cancer. It's her home sign, right? She knows what she's doing here. She's comfortable in the sign of Cancer. Cancer is water. So when we speak to water in astrology, we immediately go into the heart and the emotions and the sensitivity. With a full moon in Cancer, things that can really be heightened this weekend is family stuff. Everything you are when you come home at the end of the day and close that front door behind you, in that space in your home life, that is the stuff that comes up into the forefront with the full moon in Cancer. We are now focusing on interpersonal relationships. We are focusing on our closest, dearest inner circle. We are looking at family stuff, family situations. We are looking at relationship with women and mother and the feminine. We are also looking at our relationship with our own children or what we birth into creation, right? For those of us that don't have children, it's what do we mother in our life? What do we birth into being in our life? So we're looking at all of those things. We can be a little bit more weepy under this full moon in Cancer because we are emotional. There's a tenderness that comes in here. Now, to add to this tenderness, this big old fat full moon in Cancer is also conjunct Jupiter. So Jupiter is right next to this full moon. And remembering that Jupiter just enhances whatever he's playing with. So he's playing with that moon. So all the family dynamics, the emotions can really feel larger than life, can really feel expanded. But there's a richness to Jupiter where with the expansion, we're also growing and learning things and leveling up and seeking wisdom. And Jupiter is quite happy-go-lucky, right? So he comes in and he makes these sort of moody, melancholic, nostalgic feelings of a Cancer full moon. He sort of brightens it up a little bit. He's like, man, it's not that bad, sort of Jupiter energy. So it can be very helpful. And that moon in Cancer, that full moon in Cancer, is also receiving an opposition from Mars and Venus over in Capricorn. This makes us extra hungry and having like an insatiable appetite for love and affection and romance and chemistry. Mars is chemistry and our desires and sexual energy, and Venus is love and romance and what brings us joy. And this big full moon in Cancer, which is already emotionally hungry, is opposing those relationship planets, and it just gives this insatiable appetite, this yearning, this desire to want to be fulfilled in connection and in love and in heart connection, right? Because it's an opposition, we can have a little bit of a harder time getting that and receiving that. We could be receiving it from all the wrong places. We could be looking for it in all the wrong places. We can also not have a lot of discernment where we get it from. So just being careful with that. It's a really big full moon. Emotions are heightened, connections are made, but there's also an insatiable appetite that comes in here.